For a Paralympic athlete, making it to the international stage means mastering the biggest barriers of both the body and the mind.
I was told that I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and to prepare for that.
I never waited for something to happen because waiting is just not a good idea.
I entered the opening ceremonies on crutches. I left the games in a wheelchair.
Para-snowboarder Tyler Mosher, para-Nordic multi-medalist Colette Bourgonje, and alpine sit-skier Chris Williamson. Their challenges, their victories, events that changed their lives. These are the milestones of champions, the journeys of Canada's Paralympians. Tyler Mosher, Paralympic snowboarder. Tough, resilient, unstoppable. Whistler Mountain has just opened for the season, and the world-famous white powder runs are beckoning. A call veteran snowboarder Tyler Mosher simply can't resist.
I remember explaining to my dad, snowboarding was sort of like going down a hill on a motorcycle with your hair on fire, but feeling the ground similar to jumping from one pillow to the next. So it's this sense of floating and weightlessness and this exhilaration and also at times adrenaline.
It's a love affair with adventure Tyler has shared with longtime friend Adam Gascoigne since they first came to Whistler 2 decades ago.
We both came out here, small-town boys, to the mountains. He'd never really been to the mountains before, where I'd been a skier, so I'd like to think that I gave some of my energy to him in the sense, you know, let's go out west and be big together.
Adam skied, so I would follow around Adam quite a bit. He's a very good skier.
I remember my dad coming out and saying, you guys have to take care of each other. You know, you guys are a long way from home, and just look out for each other, you know, and we always have. He's always been there for me, and I've been there for him.
Before long, Tyler had created his dream life.
I had started up a landscape design installation business, and it was going along fairly successfully. And predominantly, I'd set up my life so that I could snowboard every day.
He was very adventurous, very energetic. Nothing was too big for him to accomplish.
Life was good on that cold December morning in 2000 as Tyler headed up the mountain for one of the last runs of the year.
Then I was out with some friends. We decided to go for a hike, and as I was traversing across and down Blackcomb Glacier, I was going towards the out-of-bounds gate, and I went over a snowdrift, and over the snowdrift I realized there was a cliff. Once I went over that snowdrift, the back of my snowboard hit the edge of the cliff and threw me upside down, and I went, you know, 10 meters, 30 feet onto the top of my head. I knew a big injury was coming, and I'm like, oh no, here it goes. Your life does sort of quickly within the second flash. I felt the weight transfer and meet in the middle of my back. And when my back exploded, I felt it explode like jumping on a pop can. It just sort of compressed.
Then came the news that would change everything.
Once I got to the hospital, being a small town, I knew the doctor, and because he was crying, I knew that it wasn't great. They showed me the x-ray, and the x-ray showed the vertebrae going right through the spinal column.
Tyler had broken his back in 9 places. His injuries were so severe that one of his vertebrae literally exploded on impact.
I had a complete spinal cord injury, and I was told that I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and to prepare for that. I mean, obviously you're scared, but you're also in shock.
For Adam, the promise he'd made to his dad to be there for Tyler came back to haunt him.
I wish I was there that day. Like, I wish, you know, I could rewind time a couple hours and, you know, maybe have scoped it out first, and I could have prevented it to happen. Not so much guilt, but tragic. Like, it was unfortunate. It was just a fluke, severe fluky accident, you know.
But the biggest challenge of his life, the road back to recovery, Tyler would have to face on his own.
The lowest point and the most scared that I've ever been in my life is when I was transferred to the rehab center and I didn't have anybody with me. I was tied to a wheelchair with a bed sheet, and I really realized how messed up I was physically, and it was probably the lowest point of my life.
The first few weeks at the rehabilitation center in Vancouver were Tyler's darkest days.
Several weeks had gone by in the rehab, and you're learning how to go to the washroom in a wheelchair. You're learning how to get out of bed and get into a wheelchair, to move around in a wheelchair. But then after several weeks, something happened, and I was feeling this different sensation in my legs. And then one day I could move part of my leg, and I remember tears coming to my eyes and thinking to myself, I'm gonna walk again. And tears coming to my physio's eyes, and I think she was thinking, probably not.
But perseverance and fierce determination finally paid off.
I'd go visit him weekly. The one day I came down to visit him, and where's Tyler? Hey, where's Tyler? And one of the guys said, oh, you mean the walker? And I said, what? The walker. Tyler started walking like 2 days ago. And just complete shock and joy, you know.
Back on his feet at home in Whistler, the lure of the mountains proved once again too hard to resist.
Living in Whistler and not being able to enjoy Whistler really equates to leaving Whistler. I wanted to learn how to enjoy the snow, so I wanted to learn to cross-country ski because I wanted to learn how to be mobile in the snow.
But unlike snowboarding, cross-country skiing was a struggle for the natural athlete.
Without the muscles holding my knees into place, it didn't really make sense. It physiologically didn't make sense. And the thing is that I had never cross-country skied really before my injury, so there wasn't a muscle memory, even though there weren't a lot of muscles to remember.
Tyler took up yoga to strengthen his body and mind. Before long, he'd set his sights on representing Canada at the 2010 Winter Paralympic Games.
Going from being dropped off in the bus and tied to a wheelchair with a bed sheet to, you know, waving at the crowd at the 2010 Paralympic Games 10 years later, was that my wildest dreams? No, not at all. Not even close. I could never have imagined.
Tyler's unstoppable. And it rubs off on all of us. I mean, it rubs off onto me. I'd like to take a little piece of that with me, you know. I have two boys that look up to him. He's a great role model. I'm almost gonna get tears in my eyes, but.
Since 2010, Tyler has focused on adaptive snowboarding, lobbying hard to get it included in the 2014 Sochi Games. Now, for the first time in history, para-snowboarding is on the schedule.
It's making a bad thing that happened to me, my spinal cord injury, into something that's positive for me, knowing that I'm part of a legacy, that myself, along with many other people, had a vision to create snowboarding at a wide level across the country and across the world.
Tyler's legacy is more than lobbying, even more than winning. It's about being a game changer. And friends like Adam know why Tyler's got what it takes.
If you don't have dreams or goals, you're just gonna live a average, boring life. You have to think big, live big to go big. Tyler's big.
After the break, wheelchair racing and sit skiing champion Colette Bourgonje.